Maybe.
On
Yes,
air.
all right, we are
Okay.
live. Good
Woo!
afternoon, and welcome to the very first telecast of Urban Fantasy PH. It's been long on the back burner before the end of the month, and yes, while it is still Pride Month
Mhm.
2020, why not end the month with a bang, or if you prefer, rainbow colored confetti? Yes, and if you have, start
Woo!
throwing them now in your homes. That's assuming you have some. Feel free to use it. So, my name is CJ Edmunds, and this is our pilot episode. And we will be speaking to an international YA author who is published under Swoon Reads. This is a Macmillan imprint,
Mhm.
and whose books include Romancing the Bookworm, Savor the Reaper series, which is a YA paranormal romance that includes Reaping Me Softly and Unreap
Mhm.
My Heart. You just gotta love the titles. And she also wrote the Dodge Cove series, which is a trilogy of YA contemporary romance books with the titles No Love Allowed, No Looking Back, which is one of my giveaways last week, Friday. Here's No Looking Back. Woohoo, you got it too. And No Second Chances. Now, her latest is called The Boyfriend Bracket. I got it here, which is another YA contemporary romance. Yes, she has it as well. Another YA contemporary romance released under Swoon Reads. But wait, there's more. She also has another series of books published under Harmony Ink Press, on which she writes under the pen name Ava Munoz. And
Mhm.
under Ava, she has Impulse, which is more of new adult, and book one of the In Sherry Chronicles entitled I Dare You Not to Break Curfew. Now we're certainly not breaking curfew anytime soon because it's too early for that. It's just after lunch. So welcome to the show, my good friend and writing buddy, Miss Kate Evangelista.
Hi. Thank you for
Woohoo!
having me.
Thank you for being here, for agreeing to be in the podcast and being the first guest at that, aka guinea pig.
Mhm.
So
Happy to be the guinea pig. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for thinking of me.
thank you, thank you. I know we've talked before on air about sometime before when I was still at nights with Mellow Nights over Mellow 94.7. But is this your first video podcast interview? I'm just not sure.
Yeah. It's the
Oh, it
first,
is.
and it's good practice for when classes start, and then we start doing all the Zoom classes with my students. So it's
Perfect.
kind of that. So yeah, you I am your guinea pig. You are my guinea pig as well. This is the first for me too.
It's a series of firsts, yes, because if people are not aware, you are also a teacher.
Yes, I teach creative writing to grade 11 and grade 12 girls
Mm-hmm.
at St. Scholastica's in West Grove, so near us. And so we're gearing up for a online classes
Mm-hmm.
until the government says it's okay to go back. Well, they're probably gonna wait until a vaccine is
Yeah, I'd rather wait.
ready.
I'd rather that they wait.
To make sure that the students are safe, because
Exactly.
as you know, I mean, school is pretty much a germy place
Mm-hmm.
in itself,
Yeah.
and add COVID to that, so just have one student be a carrier, you could pretty much infect, the whole student body. So it's that's their rationale there, and I agree with them. I wouldn't want to put the students at risk, and I don't
Right.
think the parents would want to put the students at risk either. So
Exactly. And to
yeah.
kind of like change the atmosphere a bit, add toxic students and toxic
Yes.
teachers and toxic parents, then you have a mishmash of people in one environment.
Yes, yes, and you just and it would be a challenge, not only because you would have to wear a mask, and then
Mhm.
they would have to wear a mask, and then you teaching while wearing a mask, covering half your face. So it's kind of, I believe that part of teaching is also the facial expression. So if
Mhm.
they just see your eyes, that can hinder getting your point across also.
Ah, yes.
So right now, yeah, we're making do with online classes,
Mhm.
and seeing where we can go from here. Hopefully, things get better,
Mhm.
and we're
And it
able to go
will.
back into the classroom. Yeah,
Right.
because it's different. I mean, online has its usefulness, but it's still different when you are in the classroom,
Mhm.
feeling what the students are feeling, feeling the room, um, switching up your attitude while you're teaching, because you're feeling the room instead of just when they're on a screen
Right.
and it's just small squares on a screen. So it's kind of hard to keep track of, like, are they paying attention, are they, are they getting what you're saying. So
Yes.
it's
Or
kind of
are they being like Gandalf, sleeping with their eyes open, makes you feel that they are actually listening to you?
Yes. Well, I'm off a mindset that I really like this one example of this teacher who let his one of his students sleep through his class, knowing because knowing teenagers who are up until what 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning doing whatever, and a lot of them lack sleep. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I do see a student who is falling asleep or is asleep, I don't necessarily bother them during that moment, but then after
Hmm.
the class I do talk to them afterwards, and and then we have some words and see, like, why did they fall asleep? Was it on my
Yeah.
part? Was my class being too boring? So it's kind of that. But during that moment, it's difficult to, like, wake them up, and then because it could be embarrassing for them also,
Exactly. Yeah.
because
Exactly.
maybe they didn't intend to fall asleep. It's just that they were really sleepy,
Hmm.
and so I understand because I was there, and I mean we were there at that age also, and especially if your class is like early in the morning or after lunch, and so it's kind of that. mm, it's just so easy to, like, fall asleep. So
I agree.
it's
I agree. Right, right. So, since it is all about firsts today, so can
yeah.
you tell us, let's say, when did you first discover for yourself that you liked to write? Did you feel that it evolved from reading? Because most people say that writers started out as readers like everybody else.
Actually, writing came to me the way it did with school,
Hmm.
because my I don't know if you had this when you were in high school, where your English teacher would assign the class to write a short story,
Yeah.
and then that would be
Or
your
a book
assignment or
report.
your project, and then you would submit that, right?
Hmm.
um I would love to say that my writing came from the fact that I was a reader, but actually I'm dyslexic.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
i
okay.
I actually passed the first grade into the second grade without knowing how to read, and so I don't know
Whoa.
how I did that, but I managed it. I think it was because I was in Montessori at the time, and
Okay.
the learning the learning process there isn't, you don't get numerical grades. It's more
Hmm.
of, if you learn this skill, you move on to the next skill. And so that's why I was basically in my entire grade school life before I transferred to high school, I was in remedial English for not knowing how to read, and or having a hard time reading, because I didn't understand at the time that I like my what my eyes were seeing as words. My
Hmm.
brain was like jumbling up in my head, so I couldn't. So spelling was really hard for me too. So
Hmm.
I only really started enjoying reading when I was already in first year high school, and my one of my classmates lent me a fantasy novel, and it was a really thick novel. It's Daughter of the Empire,
Okay.
by, I forget the names. It's two authors, a female and a male author.
Okay.
They collaborated, and it's Daughter of the Empire. It's a trilogy, and I really gravitated to that story, and that's when I think something clicked on my in my brain, and I started loving to read. And then so when got to I never thought writing as a career. I just thought
Hmm.
books came out of nowhere and you would read them. I didn't think of the people who were writing them as like professional writers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's your bread and butter. So I never thought of it that way. And then when my English teacher assigned short stories, I'm going to be dating myself here in saying that I used my father's electric typewriter and and
We used to
typed
have
up
one of
whatever.
those.
Yeah, like whatever story was in my head, I typed it up. I brought it to school, and I know no spell check, no grammar check, nothing. It's just whatever was in my head. I was typing it out, and when my teacher said, "You have something here," that's when I thought, "Really? I I can do this?" And so yeah, so that sort of got the ball rolling. But I never really thought of it as a career until later on in life, like until Twilight came out. When
Aha!
Twilight came out, and I
We
read
have
it, I'm
Stephanie
like,
Meyer to thank for that.
yeah, yeah, because in my head I was like, because I was already writing then, but I had a day job and I was writing, and I never it never clicked as a career until I read Twilight, and I said, if she can do it, I can do it too. So that's why
Yes.
Paige is a paranormal romance, in that, in that vein of
Of Twilight.
Twilight.
Yeah.
And since paranormal romance was so big at that time, and then actually I discovered Twilight before I discovered Harry Potter, which is weird.
Oh,
Because
okay.
yeah, because a lot of writers, they
So should I
discovered
call
Harry
Stephanie
Potter
Meyer in the
first.
chat now? Should I add her now into the chat? That'd be awesome to
Yeah,
be
I know, right?
speaking with
Like,
Stephanie Meyer.
yeah,
Just come on in. Just come on in.
ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Meyer.
Yeah, I know.
I
Next time
would,
we'll bring
I
a
would, I
stand-in.
would faint and
You and me, you and me both. But
disappear.
if ever I
Yeah.
get to have her on the podcast, you'll be the first person to know.
Oh my god. I need to be a part of it. If just as a creeper in the background, I I won't even speak. I would just be like, speak to me.
Uh,
That's why when Midnight, as you know,
yeah.
when Midnight Sun was announced, of course I was like,
Yes,
yeah,
finally
you
she
know,
gets to write it from Edward's point of view, the
yeah.
official version.
I will not even be ashamed to say I was one of the readers who read the leaked version of it. I think it reached up to chapter 10. If
Uh-huh.
I'm it
I know it's
it
not the
based
complete it's
Yeah,
not
it
the complete
wasn't.
book.
It's not
Yeah.
complete. Um it it reached the point in the story where Edward went to Alaska. Because remember, he was
Oh,
trying
okay.
to avoid being with Bella, and he disappeared for a week. So
Yes.
apparently, that's when he went to Alaska. So in Midnight Sun, when I read the leaked version, I'm sorry, Stephanie Meyer, I had to. I was a fan. I was ravenous. It was there. And if you're watching, Stephanie Meyer, um,
I'll tag
yeah,
her. I'll tag her.
manuscript stopped
Yeah.
at when he was in Alaska, and he was um talking to the sisters, the three sisters that were there. Were there three? Yeah, because they show up in Breaking Dawn. But anyway, yeah, he was talking to them, and he was contemplating staying there because just to avoid Bella. And then one of the sisters was like, "No, you can't run away from that. If you really are someone who who has promised not to drink blood of a human, then you have to face that craving, or else you'll
Right.
just be right."
Honor the promise that you made.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So it ended with him like deciding that he's gonna come back. So I don't know if she changed anything since then.
We'll find out. We will find out.
That's
We
why
will
I'm like,
find out.
I'm
Geeking
so
out.
excited.
I was wondering, was there no, let's say, policing of any sort on what you had to read or should be reading in the Evangelista household? I mean, no reading suggestions from Mami Lynn.
No, no, because the thing, okay, we love my mom. I love my mom. Everybody, she's my momager. But I will tell you, she has never read any of my novels. Not, not opened a single one. You know why? Because she says, "Well, because if I read it and then I find something wrong with it, and then I tell you, and then you're gonna hate me." And I'm like, Okay.
or,
Like,
or more
so
like, if I wanted to know the story, since you live with me, I can just ask you, and I don't need to read.
exactly, exactly. And she's like, well, I mean, when it becomes a movie, I'll know the story. I'm like, okay, right.
Yes, yes, for movie adaptations. Yes, yes. Um, children who have parents who children who have parents who foster reading at a young age are certainly luckier than most, and these children only know that the value of that when they grow
Yeah,
up,
and my
when they
mother is
become
a
readers
librarian,
themselves.
so she, when she was in school, she was a working student, and she worked at the library. So reading and books were always a part of our life.
Hmm.
Um, just not for me. The interest just came to me a little later. But she never, like, she was happy as long as we were reading. It didn't matter whatever it was we were reading, as long as we were reading. So
Right.
for me, it was fantasy and fiction and whatever. And my brother would be more of the science and world books and
Hmm.
encyclopedias. That was his reading. He doesn't really read much fiction. He reads more comic books now and graphic novels and anything science connected. Yeah. So with me, it's more fiction and romance and sci-fi. Those were my things. The only thing I have a hard time reading is horror, which you have so graciously sent me
I
a
know,
novel
so
where
probably
now
that's
I'm
not a good
stuck in
idea.
the middle of, because I'm freaked out. It's no, because I can imagine what's happening, so it freaks me out, and I have to like put it down for a little bit and like decompress before I continue, because I feel like whatever it is I'm reading is right there, and I
Yeah,
cannot.
and if a character says that someone's tapping their shoulder, you probably would be imagining a
Yeah,
disembodied finger on your shoulder tapping right there.
goosebumps.
Please,
I get
please read. Flip to the next page, please.
no. It's like you're reading too slow. Come on, let's go.
All
Like,
right. Cool.
go.
So, did you pattern yourself after any writer in particular, like let's say career-wise, and saying to yourself, you know what, when I become a full-fledged author, or when I grow up, I'm gonna write like Nora Roberts, or I'm gonna write like, or have a
My God,
career like Daniel Steele or Alice Hoffman.
isn't that the dream? I think that's the dream,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it is. It is the dream. It is the
you
dream.
know, well, I think it's. I never really like. I, I guess you would have like. Would we call it delusions of grandeur? Where for I guess it's like, well, I guess they say really dream big
Yeah,
and
dream big,
shoot for the
or
stars
go
and
big or
see.
go home.
Yeah, exactly. So I've always wanted to see my book in the New York Times bestseller list, but I've never really like said, okay, this is the career trajectory. This is the person who I want to follow the trajectory of,
Hmm.
because a lot of our experiences are different, and a lot of the people that we think are overnight successes, if you look at their history, it's like they've been doing it for years, and
Yes.
they've only really gained success because of that one thing that they became successful for. Like,
Hmm.
Mitch Albom was writing long before Tuesdays with Maury came
Yeah,
out.
he was a sports writer.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing with Elizabeth Gilbert. Everybody thought that Eat, Pray, Love was her first novel, and that's when she became really famous. No, but she was also a writer before then. She would write short stories and have them published. So it's kind of that. It's like you can't pattern your career for other people's career, because
Right.
that's when disappointment can, because like, why isn't it happening to me yet? Why isn't
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so it's
Other people's standards should not be your standards, right? I mean,
yes,
it's always great to pattern your career after someone else, but when it comes also to writing, it's also best to have your own voice, and
yeah,
also getting your stories across, right? And getting your stories across is certainly the ideal for any writer of any genre. For those who are not sure what genre is, it's just basically the classification that most books get categorized in. I mean, there's fiction, there's nonfiction, there's horror, there's romance, young adult. There's adult, and one of your books, the Ava Munoz books, which is the curfew book that we had a while ago. Let me just put it
Yes.
up again. There you go. It says that it is new adult.
Yes,
That sounds like a new genre.
yeah, well, basically, they needed to fill because there's a gap between YA and adult, right?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
YA, we look at protagonists that are 13 to 18, and then adults usually are seen as 25 and up.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about the 19 to 24 year
Yeah.
olds? So,
Right. Right.
it's kind of that because you can't really classify, well, they are technically adult books, but you
Mhm.
can't technically classify them as that because their experiences, they still have those coming of age experiences like your first job, college life.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them are having their first sexual encounter right out of college, right out of high school, their first drink right out of high school. So it's kind of that filling in that gap. A couple of years ago, New Adult became really, really big, especially in the self-published novels side of things.
Mm-hmm.
They were really popular on Amazon. I read so many New Adult books, and traditional publishing tried to catch up with that by doing their own new adult books, but I think there's still a disconnect because the adults who are reading young adult are, it's basically trying to recapture that sense of youth where
Mm-hmm.
you are 16 and suddenly you're the chosen one, or
Yeah.
suddenly discover your powers, or you're going to save the world, or even on a contemporary level, your first love, your first crush, whatever, or like grieving a death in a family, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever story you encounter. So far the readers of young adult have not crossed over to new adult. It's
Yeah.
either you read young adult or adult. So
Right.
there's this disconnect there, and we're trying to, or
To
at
bridge
least I
that
think,
gap.
yeah, I think the industry has a lot of catching up to do because there's a market there. I'm pretty sure there's a market there. We
There
just
is. There
need,
is.
yeah, because um I believe those who read young adult, like the younger readers who read young adult,
Mm-hmm.
read up. So
Yeah.
if we give them enough books within the new adult category, it's not necessarily a genre, it's a category,
Yeah.
they would then cross over to that before moving on to
To
adult
adult.
fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Oh, okay. So if
So
it's
I don't know yet
college,
how to like bridge that gap.
so that probably would fall. That would probably be where this other project I'm working will fall under because my heroine is in college.
Yeah,
So if you're in college,
exactly.
it's new adult. Let
Yeah,
me.
college books.
Right.
It's a that there's a missing link there, and I don't know enough people in the industry who like write for that, just purely for that age range of
Mhm.
19 to 25 age range. So because a lot of the situations that happen in that age range can be classified as adult experiences anyway, so it's
Yeah,
very
you're
confusing.
on the cusp anyway, so it's like
Yes.
in a way, it's okay to kind of chuck it to that category as well.
Yeah.
Let me just say hi to Ahmed Lukman, who's one of listeners on the show, and also who's also joining us today on the podcast. Ahmed says,
Hi.
"Oh my, I love seeing the both of you." And Ahmed hopes to buy some of your other books soon. He's actually the winner for No Looking Back for Fandom
Yeah.
Friday last week. So Ahmed, I will reply to your message. I think I already have with regards to how to get your prize. So he's asking about your inspiration in coming up with your YA novels, and
Yeah.
he also taught in Saint School Manila High School. Actually, yeah.
Ooh. Okay. So we're in that same same family of
Of educate.
fostering
Yes.
pulasas
Yeah.
and releasing them into the world. Yeah. Well, when it comes to inspiration, I think the what I don't necessarily wait for inspiration. Actually, that's what my tattoo. How do I? There. Well, this
Okay.
tattoo
Yeah.
right here.
All
Okay,
right.
I can't show it. But yeah, I have a tattoo here that says "action before inspiration." It's actually a quote from Robert Rodriguez, who
Hmm.
filmed From Dusk Till Dawn. Okay,
Yes.
so he was on the Chris Hardwick podcast, and they were
Okay.
talking about, because he's really prolific, and they were talking about how pretty much a lot of his movies are independent
Mm-hmm.
films. They're not necessarily like big budget
Yeah.
blockbuster
They're
films,
not
and he was talking.
mainstream.
Yeah, so he was talking about he's pretty much in the same vein as Quentin Tarantino, the way they work and the way they go with their ideas. And what he was talking about is that really clicked in my mind, which is why I tattooed it on my wrist, is that um, you can't wait for inspiration, because if you wait for inspiration, you're not going to get anything done,
Right.
especially as a writer. It's very crippling to wait for inspiration. You have to, even if you don't feel like writing that day, you have to, because you cannot.
Guilty.
Yeah, it happens to me too. Just look at 2019. I barely wrote anything in 2019, and I
But
will
you've got so many
forever.
other books out already. So your process, whatever process you're going through, it's working out for you. But for people who
Yeah,
have not turned out anything and
yeah,
released it publicly,
exactly.
then that's going to be a
Well,
problem.
no, because because life gets in the way too, and there are just these moments where you feel like you can't, right? So you have to be able to free yourself from the guilt of saying, okay, I didn't write anything. I'm a shitty writer. I do not deserve this, you know? So, but you have to, like, even if it's just one sentence or one paragraph, you don't even have to force yourself to write an entire chapter. If you want to end in the middle of the chapter, actually, Jay Kristoff does that. He writes until he feels like he's at a stopping point. Sometimes it's even in the middle of a sentence. He stops. No period, no nothing. He just
Really?
stops. Yeah, when he feels like, when he feels like the juice is gone, he
Yeah.
stops. So even if it's like, and she walked into, and then there's no more, he just stops.
He just
Why?
stops. Okay.
Yeah, because when he goes back to it, he can easily pick up where he left off, instead
Ah,
of ending at a chapter and then you have to start a new chapter and then you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's gonna happen. So it's kind of that, he purposely ends it in the middle of whatever, so that it's almost like, and then so he's like, and then she walked into the room and blah 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 blah, blah, and then he just keeps writing, right? So
right.
that's it. It's like, you don't. Inspiration is nice when it comes, because you feel electric and you feel like you can rule the world, and it's almost like a drug, and it's
Yes.
so, it's so like, and sometimes it happens in the middle of the night for some reason, and you're like, oh my god, I have to go to sleep, but no, I have to write this thing, and that's nice.
And that's
And
why that's why we have cell phones. You can just go on your phone and just type it on notes before you go to
yeah,
sleep, and then put
exactly.
it aside, and then that's it.
And then try to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Sure.
The keyword is try.
Try,
Yeah,
try.
yeah.
Which is why a lot of the writers I know are notorious insomniacs, because your brain, and that's actually what happened to me. Is I rode the inspiration. This was in high school. This happened in high school. It was the first novel I ever wrote. It has mechs in it, because that was the time where I was really into Gundam Wing, and I was
Okay.
writing, and it had mechas in it, and it had robots and whatever, right? And I was
Will we
really
will
into.
we see this for publication anytime soon?
It's a horrible novel. I mean, I wrote it. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I wrote the inspiration, right? I
Okay.
did not leave my room for a week. I don't
Whoa.
remember. I don't remember that week. Okay, it's a blank spot in my mind. I tried to remember writing that novel, but it it just did not. I don't know. It's a blank spot in my mind. Even now, I'm trying to remember what happened. I just all I remember is that my mom would bring me food and she would leave it outside my door, and that was it. And I don't know how I survived that week because I wrote an entire novel. I think it was like 80,000 to 90,000 words,
Oh boy.
and it was crap, of course. But it made me it scared me
Mm-hmm.
because I thought, oh my god, if I continue this way and I do not discipline myself, this is why writing a chapter a day became my thing, because if I do not discipline myself, I will write myself to death. I honestly believe that. Why? Because when it happened to me a second time with No Love Allowed,
Uh-huh.
I just came back from Las Vegas from one of my writer conferences. I was so pumped with this idea. I wrote it in 2 weeks, that novel. I wrote it in
Wow.
2 weeks. The first draft was done in 2 weeks. But the moment I pressed the end, I ended up in the emergency room.
Oh no.
Yeah, I honestly thought I was having a heart attack because I was like having prickling
You
along
were
my
that
arm.
you were that focused, and you were that really, you had blinders
Yeah,
on
no,
basically. You're
it's
not seeing
scary.
anything else. Yeah,
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 no,
yeah.
it's really scary because you have no control. It's like you're letting the muse take you over, and
Yes.
then you have no control. And then thankfully, it wasn't a heart attack. It was just a pinched nerve
Oh,
here that was giving me like
oh,
freaking,
for
yeah, because
being,
you're
too staying
you're
so
like
long like this.
that
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time. Yeah,
yeah,
so it's really
yeah.
that. Don't wait for inspiration. You have to force yourself to write whatever it is, because remember, the writing is the just the first part. The hardest part is the editing. So you first need material to edit, so you have
Yes,
to get it all out. You have to get it
right.
all out, and then you edit.
Exactly. The
Because
first draft is not well, I wouldn't say nothing, but the first draft, yes, is an accomplishment. But experts will attest to it that writing is editing.
yes, well, because you have to think. Okay, this is gonna be gross, but you have to think of the first draft as pooping. Okay, it's that release
Good
of,
thing we ate.
yeah, and then when you press the end, it's like when you reach the end of the poop, you're like, ah, I am,
Relieved.
I'm relieved. And it's exactly that. It's poop. You cannot,
I never thought we'd be talking about poop in this podcast, but yeah, good.
I'm sorry. If anybody's eating
That's
in the middle of this, I apologize. It's just that you have to think of it that way, because if you immediately think that your first draft is gold, I'm sorry, it's not. And the industry
not
is
yet.
brutal and will
Yeah.
not be afraid to tell you that it's crap. And that is the hardest
And
part.
that's the hard truth. That's right.
Yeah, when
And
you start getting rejections,
ay ay ay
you know,
ay.
because you did not edit and you think it was gold and your ego got the better of you. That's the thing about, I think not only just the writing industry or the publishing industry, I think in any entertainment industry,
Mhm.
they will, they are not afraid to tell you when you suck. So
Yeah,
the
that'll
thing
be
is,
straight.
yes. So you have to put in the hours. So here we go with Malcolm Gladwell, right? 10,000 hours. You have to put that in because that's where you gain your confidence from, not from,
Exactly.
I wrote this novel, it's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to say, I was guilty of that. When I was in college, I was notoriously, you know, bad at thinking that the first, because I was studying literature and I was studying from, the professors, the best professors of literature in the country, and you get it in your head that you're like perfect and you know what you're doing, and postmodernism and all of those theories, and you're like, I'm good, I'm perfect.
Yeah,
And
I got it down pat. I mean, I study this, so I should know this. So you didn't. So
exactly. So, when they crush you like an insect, you're like, ah, well, I guess that degree does not help me at all. So it's kind of that. It's it's a
But
very humbling
degree or not, you don't really need a degree
oh
to be a writer, right? And
best writers don't, they just wrote
yeah,
and they just
based on
sat
what they
there and wrote,
experienced.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's helpful. I mean, if no, because I think the only reason why you would get like an English degree or a literature degree is because you like the reading side of it, the
Hmm.
mechanics of it, like how fiction works or how the theory of it works,
Hmm.
the academic side of it. But really, it's not connected to the creative side of it.
Yeah.
It's like it just opens the door for you.
Right.
Um, but you're not going to be the next Nobel Prize winner in literature. Okay, so
True. 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 True.
it's not that. So it's
Yeah.
you're there because you like the seeing the world of it, but it's not
Hmm.
necessarily like this is what's gonna get me a writing career. No, it's deciding you want to write that's gonna get
Right.
you a writing career.
And once you've decided, let's say, on a path, it also doesn't mean that once you've decided that this is how you're going to be, you'll stay you'll stay on that road forever, because sometimes the road would fork and you would have to make a decision to diversify, or once
Yeah.
you've diversified, maybe change what it is that you've put out or created. And
Yeah.
while on the subject of diversification, a lot of
Mm.
us have seen and tried, and probably were even successful at being a hand of new things during the recent lockdown that we all had to go through for 3 months. And some
Yeah.
people became experts in car cleaning, house cleaning. I'm still at that. House painting, renovations, and in your case, concoctions in the kitchen. So, which is something
Yes.
that I'm seeing more often on your YouTube channel.
Mm.
Have you always also liked to cook or dabble in the kitchen?
Actually, yes. When I was starting out as a writer, the only way I could cope with stress was baking.
Okay.
So when the deal for No Love Allowed, when Swoon Reads called me, well, sent me an email saying, "Oh, we picked you as part of our third season of writers for Swoon Reads." Because for those who don't know, for those who are watching, the way Swoon Reads works is you upload your manuscript onto their website,
Mm-hmm.
and then the readers there, it's almost like Wattpad, but the
Okay.
readers then give input and they look at like which novels are um, getting the most attention from readers and looking at what the input that the readers are giving, and then that's what they usually uh, use as a metric to read the novel to see if it fits what they are looking for in that moment. So
Yeah,
it's
it's like a
almost like
public beta reading forum or something.
yes, exactly. It's almost like you're undercutting the slush pile.
Yeah.
So you're having other people show you like, oh, which books are uh should rise to the top that you should look at.
Hmm.
And so luckily No Love Allowed was picked for that season. And when they picked me and I couldn't tell anybody. Like seriously, the only person who knew was my mom, my dad, and my brother. My brother didn't really care because he was doing his own thing. And so my dad was like, "Oh, you're getting published. Great." And then my mom's like, "Mm-hmm." So I didn't really have an outlet. So my outlet was cupcakes and brownies. So I baked like 1,000 cupcakes. Like
Wow.
literally 1,000 cupcakes. And I was like giving them away because I wouldn't eat. Here's the thing: when I bake, I don't eat what I bake. I give it away.
Okay.
So people are like, "Why are you giving cupcakes?" I'm like, just go with it. Just go with it. I'm happy. I'm happy.
That's my process. Let it be.
Yes. So this is my stress. Accept it. So,
So
but really,
brownies and
yeah.
cupcakes would probably be the kinds of dishes or food that you can prepare with your eyes closed. In short.
Yes. Yes. So cooking, baking is for me, but cooking is really with my mom. And because we were stuck at home and then we weren't really doing anything. And so I said, "Mom, why don't I mean, because you're really good at it." My mom is really really good, cook, and like chef level cook. And I said, "Why don't we film it?" And because I was thinking of reviving my YouTube channel anyway, because I started it when I started writing. and
Mm-hmm.
nothing really came of it. Actually, if you look at my older videos, it's mostly me spouting about writing advice and greeting people Merry Christmas and whatever. And my trailer for Taste, my book trailer for Taste, is there along with my book trailer for Reaping Me Softly. So I was like, I mean, it's there. Might as well revive it. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, so let's
That's
film
why
it.
we're seeing a lot of it of that there, which is great.
Yeah. So I was like, why don't we film it? And then I would post it on YouTube because um it was something fun that because my mom was cooking anyway, so I said, why not, while you're cooking it, I would narrate the process of cooking it. So I'm basically holding the camera, directing it at the food, and at the because the thing I noticed about a lot of cooking videos is that they would do something, and then they would explain it a little bit, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
get exactly how they did it. So
Yeah,
when you try it, it sort of falls apart because you don't know the technique.
and it
So
tastes different. You feel that there are were they did they omit some sort of ingredient in what they were listing out,
yeah,
because it doesn't taste like the way that it's supposed to taste based
yes,
on what I've
exactly.
seen.
Exactly. And because the thing is, with some of the videos, you're focused on the personality that's cooking
Well, that's
instead
true.
of the actual cooking process. I mean, if John Legend is cooking fried chicken, you're just staring at John Legend and not really the fried chicken that he's cooking. So
Hmm.
it's kind of so what I thought of, and what my mom and I thought of, is
When
we're
you said
just
fried
focused on,
chicken, it's just like my mind just went South New Orleans, like, you want some fried chicken to go with
yeah.
that.
Actually, it's so good if you go find that video of John Legend cooking fried chicken, because it's really, really good. And then you hear Chrissy Teigen in the background, like critiquing him. But anyway, it's really funny. But so my mom and I, what we would do is we focus on the food itself. So you never see us on camera.
Hmm.
You just mostly hear me narrating like the way it's supposed to go, because that's how cooking should be for us. It's like you look at the that's why when she was preparing the prawns cardinal,
Hmm.
um and she was cutting the shrimp and I was explaining it, we really made sure to show it three times
Yes,
instead of just the one time.
I saw
When
that.
Yeah, because if you show it just once, you have to like replay just to just to see the process. But at least if you show it more than like three times, then at least you get the idea
Hmm.
as a viewer of how it goes. And then once in a while, I would throw in a HMR haul video there, or a Miniso haul there,
Yeah,
only
I
because
saw. When you get into that store, you're never gonna go out. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, no, yeah, well, because the Miniso haul actually just happened by mistake, because I was just going to Brothers Burger and there was a Miniso right beside it. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to wait outside Brothers Burger for my burger. So why
Hmm.
don't we go into Miniso for a while and wait 50? So I came out with stuff and I'm like, well, I have all of this stuff, might as well film
Yeah,
everything I
you, you
bought.
you
So
you have new content
yeah,
for your channel, which is great. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so we do
cooking,
cooking, and then
shopping,
once
yeah,
in a
reading,
while I do
writing,
hauls.
everything. Yeah, why not? I know we're moving from writing to food, and we can always go back to the writer
No,
part.
but that's part of
Uh,
the creative process. Because the thing is, as a writer, and I get asked this a lot, is like, what do you do when you get writer's block,
mhm.
right? Because you can't just constantly go, 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 right? You do other things. That's
Yeah.
why you do other creative things, so that it unlocks that block in your head, and you're able to rethink that scene, or maybe you're able to um you're able to reimagine the story, take you in a different direction. That's why you do these things. That's why my mom and I do the cooking, I do the hauls. And then another great solution is taking a walk, just taking a walk,
Or
not being.
you can always go to your beverage of choice. That would be coffee, tea, or wine.
Yes, exactly. Or what I say is take a shower, because
Yeah.
apparently when you're showering and you're under the water, and it's so peaceful, and then the water is streaming down on you. It unlocks something. It's really weird. I
You
have a
know,
lot of
that's
my most
true. That's
creative
true.
ideas in
I
the
agree with that.
shower.
Some of my ideas actually have popped in when I was taking
Exactly.
a shower. It's like something
Yeah.
to do with water, and I guess yes. Water is fluid. Water
Yeah.
is also the subconscious. So
No,
something like
and
that
we're
gets triggered.
80% water. So it's
Yeah.
that connection too. I mean, I could go woo woo with the paranormal with you here, but yeah, it's that kind of, it's that connection. You're reconnecting to that part of you that is not, that is not thinking of what you're going to do next. You're just in the shower, washing your
Going with the
hair,
flow.
soaping your body. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then the
yeah.
idea just comes. So yeah, that's
So is there like if you're going with the flow, is there like a best time for you to write? Would that be you're a writer, you're supposed to write only at night, or if you're a plotter or a pantser, you're supposed to be writing during the day. So, what's the best time for you to write? Night or
you
day?
I guess you have to find out when you are most creative, because there are writers who are most creative really early in the morning.
Okay.
I've noticed that, especially for writers with family, before everybody wakes up, that's when they write. They take like an hour, that 1 hour every day. They wake up a little earlier than everybody else when the house is nice and peaceful, and then that's when they write.
Mm-hmm.
Other writers is like when everybody has fallen asleep, they take that 1 hour of peace, and that's when they write. Um, a few years ago, I would find that I was most creative around this time of day, like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I would usually go to my local Starbucks and I would write there and get the chapter out and go home.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've realized that, when the feeling strikes you to write, whenever it is, don't fight it. Like if you're
Okay.
commuting to work and you feel like writing, then go ahead. That's what your cell phone is for, right? Or, you can even leave yourself a voice message or record yourself just getting those sentences out if you don't feel like tapping away on your phone. So it's kind of, you have to be able to just go with that flow also,
Mm-hmm.
like what we were talking about. So choose the time. But the thing is consistency. So if you
Okay.
feel like you are most creative during this time of day, then be consistent about it so that your brain clicks that, oh, it's writing time,
Okay.
right? You
Right. Right.
feel it. It's writing time. 3 o'clock, writing time. So it's that um, you're preparing yourself. It's almost like you're going to the
Conditioning.
office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
conditioning yourself for it. So,
Yeah.
would you equate that kind of conditioning also to not just time but also to place, like a particular
Yes.
place in the house? I mean, uh, J.K. Rowling didn't exactly start out, writing at house. She would write, in cafes, uh,
Cafes. Yeah.
and Dan Brown also would take increments of 30 minutes
Yes.
in between that. So, same for time and also for place.
Place,
Uh,
yes. That's the reason why I liked Starbucks. Not because of the drinks necessarily,
mhm.
but mostly because their seat to table ratio was really good. Like the height of the seat when you're sitting down and the height of the table,
Mhm.
when you put your laptop on it, it's very comfortable. You don't feel like the table is too high where your fingers like
Right.
that,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't feel like the table is too low that you're hunching down.
I,
And the
I haven't noticed that. Good thing you brought it up. I never really
yeah,
noticed that.
yes,
The proportion
yes,
is perfect.
yes. That's why I don't know if writers are conscious of this, but that's why a lot of them are writing in Starbucks. Like it's because of that. I've noticed that. Like to the point where my mother wanted to actually buy me a Starbucks table and a Starbucks chair from actual Starbucks just so that I can write at home, because it was the table and chair ratio, and their chairs are like that curved. It's not flat, it's like the curved, so when you're
Yes, yes,
sitting down, you're
right.
comfortable. Yeah, you know what? If you are a writer at Starbucks, try thinking of that. It's because of the table and the
Now I
chair
will.
ratio.
Now I will. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I thought you're gonna say Mommy Lynn's gonna buy you, you know, your very own Starbucks franchise, your very own Starbucks
Well,
store. So,
when we reach the New York Times bestseller list, maybe.
and I'll be one
Me,
of the regulars, that's for sure.
yeah. So
I'll travel all the way south just to write.
exactly. Yeah. Who was that? I think it was Tommy Lee who had a Starbucks at his house.
Wow.
Because he couldn't leave his house. So, but he liked Starbucks, so he had his own Starbucks. And I'm
And
like,
probably have his
wow,
own barista as well.
yeah, exactly.
Work
It
full
comes
time.
with it. So you're like, how famous do you have to be
Exactly. They
where
have his very own
you
Starbucks.
have to have your Starbucks fix, but you can't
Ah,
leave
gee.
your house? I'm like, oh my god.
I know.
That's why sometimes you're like, do I want to be that famous? Where yes, I have everything I want at the click of my fingertips, but I can't leave my house because I will be swarmed by people. So at least in a way, writing still has that anonymity where especially if the books don't have the jacket cover of the author on it, unless you reach like really epic proportions of popularity where, it's like, is that it's like who J.K. Rowling is. You know who Dan Brown is. You know
Yeah.
who Mitch Albom is, right? It's like
Right,
way
right, right.
past you. Although, okay, I have an anecdote for that. Okay, I love watching movies, right? So,
Okay.
I was lining up. Way back when movies were still possible.
It will be again, but for now it's not.
A long,
Yeah.
long time ago when movies were still possible. We bought our ticket and I like buying um if anybody in the internet if anybody internationally is watching this in the Philippines, it's not really popcorn that we eat with our movies, it's french fries. So you go to potato corner and you either order I like ordering barbecue and sour cream together. um so I was waiting for my french fries order, and then, well, no, I was waiting to have my turn at the counter to give my french fries order. But
Okay.
since they already know me at that theater, they were already preparing my order even before I was going to pay, because the moment they see
Hashtag
me,
suke.
yeah, yeah, so they know. It's like the moment they see me buy a ticket, they're like, okay, we're gonna prepare fries. Um, so okay, but the thing is, so I was lining up. I was in line, and then there were two guys in front of me. They were in their high school age, and I was minding my own business. I was just standing there waiting for my turn at the counter, and then so I was just waiting for them to finish their turn at the counter, right? And then so these two guys were starting to like whisper and look at me, but I
Hmm.
wasn't paying attention because I'm not the type to pay attention to anything. I just stand there. But I
Yeah.
was starting to feel like they were looking at me and whispering to each other. And then one of them finally got the courage to actually turn around and face me and say, "You're Kate Evangelista, right?" And I was like, okay, what's happening? What? And then he was like reaching his hand out for a shake, but I was like, I was literally like my hands were literally on my chest, and I was like, who are you? Do we know each other? And then he's like, oh, I'm a fan of your work. You came to our school and you had a talk, and I'm like, oh my god, So it's kind of that. It was a very surreal moment of you were just waiting for your fries order, and then the people in front of you recognize you as an author. And
And that's in a way that's validation right there, actually.
yeah, so I was like, because at first I was like, okay, what's going on, how do they know me? And and it didn't click that they knew me because I was a writer. So it was kind of that. And that also pretty much happened to me on a Starbucks as well. I was writing, and then I was focusing on the screen, but I could
Hmm.
see someone walking towards me, And but I wasn't minding it because I thought they were just gonna walk past me. But it was a
Mm-hmm.
girl. It was two girls, and then they were giggling and really excited. And then so I was writing, and then I was starting to have that feeling where they were waiting for me to acknowledge their presence. So
Right.
I looked up, and then one of them said, "You're Kate Evangelista, right?" I'm like, "Yes." "You're the writer, right?" Yes. And then they giggled and ran away. Oh, okay, back to my writing, so that hasn't made it to my books yet, but it's
But
surreal. 'Cause,
yeah, it's something that you can actually add to your books. Real life
yeah,
experiences. Speaking of experiences, I was just wondering, does your inspiration vary from book to book in the sense that you can
yes.
pick up what happens to you in real life and put it in your books? Like, let's say for No Looking Back, did you base Nathan and Preston's story on a real life couple that you know?
Well, actually, no holding back this,
I mean,
right?
yeah, No Holding Back, No
Yeah,
Looking
no
Back,
holding back.
no Holding Back. Yeah.
It's This is my love letter to my love for yaoi and boys love, and because I'm an anime fan, and one of the things that I love about anime is they have a lot of boys love anime
They
and
do. They do.
graphic novel. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of yaoi, and I have watched it all. Like seriously,
I
you
haven't even
cannot
started.
name.
I haven't even started yet. So.
If you need suggestions, my friend,
Okay.
I am an encyclopedia of yaoi. So the thing is, I've always loved that. And in Japan, funny thing is, a lot of the writers of these boys love novels and graphic novels and animation are women. And the thing is, I loved watching it, and I've always wanted to write my own.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of like, well, I don't really write fan fiction, but I've had like stories where short stories, where usually it's usually both guys. I haven't yet dabbled with a girl pairing or a
Mm-hmm.
female pairing. Mostly male pairings, only because that's what I grew up with watching and falling in love with. There's something so although now, if you watch a lot of the yaoi and a lot of the boys love shonen anime, you will start to notice that a lot of them are not centered around consent. It's always one dominating the other. And when you grow up, you don't really think of that as a bad thing, but then you
Yeah.
realize it's a bad thing. And so, yeah,
You
it's
don't
always
force
like,
yourself
yeah,
on
it's always
anyone.
yeah, because the uke or the bottom is always dominated by the seme or the top. So usually the
Okay.
uke does not know he's gay or he's in the closet,
Uh
and then
huh.
the seme usually bullies him into a relationship with each other. So it's really, if you look at it, it's really icky and creepy because
This
that's,
is
I think,
perfect. We're talking about this during Pride Month, so yeah.
I know, I know, and so yes, consent is important. You have to check with your partner first that it's what
Mm-hmm.
they. But a lot of it, if you look at it, consent isn't a thing in the Japanese anime. Ja, a lot of their even with their hetero romances,
Mm-hmm.
consent isn't a thing. It's
Isn't the
like,
thing? Okay.
no,
It's
it's not.
thrown
And
out the
I'm like,
window.
is
Interesting
it
that you
because of
mentioned boys love.
is it because of cultural repression or
Could be,
something? 'Cause
could be.
I
I
know
won't be surprised.
so.
Subliminal. A facet of the culture, comes out in
Yes,
mainstream. Ahmed
and
also
that's
says
why
that he has a
with
lot of
no,
boys love short stories. By the way,
yeah, so
he's
that's
written.
why with no holding back, I really wanted to explore best friends falling in love
Hmm.
and that awkwardness of, should I tell my
And
best friend? Will it ruin the friendship if I
yes,
tell my, does he feel the same way?
a
Does
lot
she
of
feel
people
the
have
same
gone through
way?
that. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very universal thing. That's why, there is that idea where a guy and a girl can't be friends and make it platonic, because there's always that, do we, are
Yes.
we,
Should we?
should we, so it's kind of that, and it's a very universal concept of having a best friend. I'm pretty sure no matter who your best friend is, you have fantasized that one point where you're like, what if we take this in a whole different level? What if we take it
Right.
to the next,
But
so
it
it
doesn't
was,
even have to be your best friend. Actually, might even be a friend that you have for the
yes,
longest time, and you're wondering,
it's like,
do they see me the same way I see them, or whatever?
exactly. And sometimes no, and plus you don't think of it that way, and then suddenly it's like you get a look, or you get
Mm,
a touch, or
yes.
there's always this one moment that happens in a friendship that you don't know. It's like there was this one moment of intimacy. It doesn't have to be even a kiss or a touch. It's like sometimes it's just a look, and then you connect in that moment, and then that's when your brain is like, hmm, maybe
Might be
are you,
possible after
you know,
all. Right.
yeah. So it's that, and it's with Nathan and with Preston. Nathan has loved Preston from the very beginning. And the thing is, Nathan doesn't know that Preston feels the same way, only because Nathan is so caught up with his own feelings that he doesn't see that Preston has the same feelings for him.
Hmm.
So so that's why this whole European adventure in No Holding Back is Nathan concocting these moments where he can finally tell Preston that he's in love with him, right? But then something always gets in the way
Yes,
of,
it
like,
does.
when when they're supposed to kiss the Blarney Stone, because the legend of the Blarney Stone is that if you kiss it, you will have that ability to speak. You will have the
Hmm.
ability to be eloquent. So
Yes.
Nathan got it in his head that if he kissed the Blarney Stone, he would have the confidence to tell Preston, "I love you. I've loved you from the very beginning." But then what he didn't account for is that it's really high up, and he's afraid of heights, and he freezes, and he's not able to kiss the Blarney Stone. So it's like kind of like, oh no. So it's always something always gets in the way, and you know and I think it's always that, it's always that you're about to, and then something
And then
happens.
something happens. Yes. And for those people who are wondering if they do or they do not, you just have to get a copy of the book. That is
Yes,
really really
yes.
what you need to do. All
No,
right.
and if not for that, get a copy of the book for the shower scene, because
Yes.
I am quite proud of that shower scene where Preston is in the shower and Nathan, anyway. But
No,
it's
no spoilers, but yes,
no spoil.
preview,
Yeah,
but no spoilers.
yeah. No, because it goes back to my yaoi roots and boys love roots, where there's always a shower scene where
Hmm.
the uke walks into the seme showering, and the water is dripping down, and you see all the muscles, and the uke doesn't know what to do, but he's really turned on. I I don't I don't know.
This
So
is this is education for me at the moment, and for everyone else who's joining us now. This is like, okay, this is new content for me to check out and
oh my god,
to look
it's
into.
a world, my friend. It's a world. It's
Oh
a lot
boy.
of I have found a lot of friends through this through this journey of of boys love and shonen, and that's why Yuri on Ice became really popular. Free is also popular. Free, I mean
Hmm.
free, FREE exclamation point, is an anime about swimming, but it's
Hmm.
also very boys love if you look at it. And
Okay.
so actually one of the characters from Free is my character peg for Preston. And I currently forget his name, but he has muscles and yummy. So
Okay.
when I was writing No Holding Back, it was Preston I was thinking about as him, as his character. So it's like, so yeah, it's kind of it's I think a part of me that a lot of people don't know is that yeah, I'm really into that, and I've watched every like to the point where I know yaoi that came from the 80s. That was really popular from the 80s. It's
Hmm.
called Bronze, and oh my god, it's so good. It's so good, but again, consent was not a thing. So be
So
ready. I mean,
now we're learning.
yeah, if you're gonna go into that world, if you're gonna dabble into watching a lot of the yaoi and a lot of the boys love, fair warning, consent is not a thing.
Okay.
Um,
Now we
especially
know. Now we
yeah.
know.
So don't get all like, oh my god, he's basically raping him. And I'm like, yes, it happens. It happens a lot.
Oh my
So
goodness. I swear I've
yeah.
learned so much about that in this afternoon.
If you need
I was just
title suggestions, I'm happy to point you in the right
I
direction. I'm
I
just
will I will. I swear I did not expect this. These are just some of the things that you will not expect in
I
in a
know.
live video podcast from
Speaking of
poop to
inspiration.
yeah for inspiration to yes to gay anime. So yeah, but looks like this is a perfect time to end this on a high note. I would have wanted to end it with a little bit more something more writerly. But we've gone way past the 1 hour mark that I've set it up for. But you know what? The good thing about this is all of this is a journey. Writing is a journey, reading is a journey, discovery,
Yes.
and podcasting, yes, is also a journey wherein you don't really stop here, but this is only part of the road that you are on. And that you will discover more things. You will get to talk to more interesting people as well, just like you, Kate. And Ahmed is enjoying our interview, and and he says that it's so great that you're sharing all of these for everyone to know. Oh my
Oh,
goodness! Oh, it's a journey in progress, and I am definitely sure that we're gonna have you back here again,
yeah, thank
Kate.
you.
And we need to let you go so that you can watch more of that, more anime. We can also go back to writing and cooking and reading.
We haven't even talked about the hentai yet.
Oh God. That means we need part two. We will talk about that in part two in the next one. I shall be more educated on the subject the next time that we meet. That we talk. That's for sure. But before we say goodbye, where can our listeners and viewers find you online to know more about you and your books?
just just before I say that, I just want to say, if we ever do this again, I have a story in high school that where my best friend and I first discovered hentai. And the weird thing is, and the worst thing is, it's like the worst hentai because it was tentacle porn.
Oh
So
God. I've been hearing things about those, but I haven't tried it either. So
afterwards, we were like, I don't think I don't think we should have watched that.
and I
Anyway,
probably will get the same reaction when I try watching some of those based on
yes.
your suggestion.
So anyway, if you haven't been scared off by me yet, you can you can you can find me on Twitter at Evangelista. And then if you want to find me on my other socials, just go to my website www.kateevangelista.com. I promise I'm harmless.
She will give you viewing suggestions for free.
Oh
Oh boy. Oh goodness. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Kate, for joining us today. Today's episode, should you fail to catch it in its entirety, is on my Facebook page, CJ Edmunds, not writer, and also on my YouTube channel. I think Kate will also be having this on her own
Yes.
YouTube channel as well.
Mhm.
They can find me, just look for Kate Evangelista, right?
Yep.
Okay, Kate Evangelista, lover of Japanese anime. you, can, you can follow Kate
I think
at
I need, I think I need to edit my Twitter
I might do that as well. Reader, writer, and discoverer of Japanese anime. Oh my goodness. So once again, you can follow Kate on www.kateevangelista.com, and for
bio.
me, you can find me online, cjedmunds.com. All right, this is interesting. I mean, I'm calling this Urban Fantasy PH, but I haven't exactly explained why I'm calling the podcast Urban Fantasy
Exactly.
PH. And here we are ending this now. Well, Urban Fantasy PH basically is a hashtag that I use online based on the kind of books that I write, which is urban fantasy, and they're set in Manila. That's why it's PH. But I figured urban because we live in this concrete jungle that is Manila, that is the
Mhm.
Philippines city. And as writers, we spin stories, stories that may be true to life, stories that may be fantastical. That's why it's
Mhm.
fantasy. And since we're based in the Philippines, it's PH. So that's
Yes.
how I'm taking ownership of the whole hashtag and putting a different light on it. And that's why this podcast, the pilot episode, mind you, is called Urban Fantasy PH
We need
slash
to put an R rating at
exactly slash anime.
30. Oh no.
Oh my goodness. If I turn out to have another podcast solely based on Japanese anime, you again will be the first person that I will talk to about it. That's a promise right there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And till the next telecast, till the next podcast, this is Urban Fantasy PH, a pilot episode. My name is CJ Edmunds. I wish you all a great day ahead. Blessed be, and namaste, and keep creating. Thank you, Kate, for joining me today. And for those who are watching and looking for something to watch, well, keep watching. And we'll see you again.
Bye.
Bye, Kate. Thank you so much. Bye bye.